Welcome back to Coaches on the Beach, and today we have Alex Luna joining us from Boise State.
What's up, y'all?
Luna, the man, the myth, the legend, the most famous influencer in college beach volleyball.
Shoot, and you said it on me.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, you're a
Yeah.
two-time 30 under 30 award winner, right?
Well, yeah, I guess technically.
What do you mean you guess? Why are you being humble, man?
I would. I don't. I was just. I just happened to be young, I think.
I just happen to be young. You were definitely a young head coach, but even before you were coaching, you're a Texan through and through, right? You grew up there. If you can, I don't know how big the border is
Yeah,
for
yeah, you
Michael's
can see it. You can see it.
current frame, but we can see quite a few Texas paraphernalia in your background. How'd you get into volleyball? Men's volleyball in Texas, not small, but also not the biggest in the world.
Well, I don't know if I grew up in Texas. I mean, I've lived in like 10 states, so I kind of grew up everywhere, but I am definitely a Texan. How to get into volleyball? I mean, a lot of different ways that I think men get into volleyball. Like someone had a court in their backyard. Other group of friends would go to like a youth group thing, and they had a court there. And then so I played beach like in high school, and then when I was in high school too. I mean, I was a TA, I guess. I forget what they call it in high school. I was like a TA for the volleyball coach, but in Texas, but during volleyball practice, because in Texas, like a lot of the sports practice times are classes. So like I had like volleyball like fourth period or whatever with so I graded papers, but a lot of times when I didn't have papers to grade, I would just like help with practice. So teacher's aid what it was, yeah. Um but then I played baseball in college, and then as I kind of finished my baseball eligibility, I was kind of like secretly playing on the men's club volleyball team while I was playing baseball, and that kind of started to get me in trouble a little bit. And then that was with indoor. And then it's like my last year of baseball eligibility, I'd also volunteer assisted with the women's indoor volleyball team at UT Dallas. And I also didn't explicitly get permission to do that from my baseball coach. So it ended up becoming an unfortunate kind of bad breakup with baseball, but then volleyball and beach volleyball like firmly took the place that baseball had taken in my life. And so I was like all in then. I was vice president of the men's club volleyball team. I was playing beach every other day. I was coaching club, beach, club indoor. I helped start a club. Yeah, I was coaching a high school team in the morning. After I graduated, I was working in marketing full time and then coaching club 4 or 5 nights a week, playing tournaments on the weekend. So it just kind of like took the place.
Yeah, you hit your 10,000 hours about week two, and then it was off to bigger and better things shortly thereafter, right?
Yes, yeah, that's accurate.
So you were coaching club for a little while, and you were like, okay, I want to get into this thing full time. So you decided to go get a master's degree, right, at San Jose State. Is that how you and the Shepherdsons got hooked up?
I didn't get a master's there. But I know. I think what happened there is I they had a GA position, one
Yeah,
GA position for both indoor and beach, and they had, I think, elected to split that stipend in half so that they could have an indoor assistant and a beach assistant. So when I was working in marketing and I had been trying to get into coaching college, they were like, "Yeah, well, I think they offered the job to someone else, and then they called me like a week later and were like, "Oh, they turned it down. Could you be here in a week?" And the stipend's $12,000 for the year, and you're living in San Jose, which is the most expensive, it's almost one of the most expensive places to live in the country. I was like, "Let's do it."
bad
So
decision
yeah,
number one. Got it.
bad decision number one because it also did not come with a master's degree, but that is coming later. That's actually in progress right now. So it all comes around. You know what I
It
mean?
all works out.
It's just a matter of how patient you're willing to be. But that was good. That was a great. I loved working with the Shepherdsons, and we had a nice balance to each other. I mean, um, Jolene and Aaron and I, like, I know they're husband and wife coaching duo, so that's always like interesting dynamic. But it's like really family. Their kids were always around, and I was like, sometimes I was Shep and I were kind of on one side, other times it was me and Jolene. So like I feel like I was a really good middle ground. I really liked working with them. And I really thank them because they gave me a ton of autonomy. And like one of the things that Shep told me early on, he goes, I'm going to give you a lot of freedom and a lot of feedback. And I've actually been super fortunate, even from a coaching club. I've been incredibly fortunate that I've almost exclusively worked for people that have not micromanaged me, that have said, do your thing. Let's see what happens.
Hmm.
And I mean, that is like huge. That is huge. I give all the credit to them, to the first club coach that I worked for, Corey Jones. Like everyone that I've worked with, they've been like, yeah, like do it. We trust you to do it, and then we'll steer as we go along. And that's like I thank those people so much for that. So they gave me a lot of autonomy there.
Yeah. So you did 3 years at San Jose?
I did 3 years. I started there as the beach assistant, beach only assistant, and we had I think like six, maybe six beach only players. So I kind of managed them in the fall, and then the spring, Shep would join, and the crossover athletes would join, and then it was full deal. The second year, their indoor assistant left for another job, who also was a great mentor for me and still is, Ian Choi, who's at Fordham. And they hired me to be the indoor assistant as well that second year. So I was doing both. I was doing double duty, and I loved that too because I was like, wake up in the morning, go get the van, drive the beach only girls to practice, run beach training, come back to the office, plan indoor practice, be in indoor practice for a couple hours. Then after that, it'd be like 3, 4, 5 p.m. I'd be like, okay, now I can eat, do office work, go home, go to sleep, do it again. It's like it was a lot.
A lot of volley. A lot of volley.
A lot of volley.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to jump in and practice a lot. Was really good about just causing trouble on the B team. Just stimulating people, it was
Making
pretty,
life a little bit harder. Challenging them, I think is the term we like to utilize.
yeah, disrupting.
Disruption. So you're doing all this stuff. You're getting all these hours. Hopefully, when you jumped into the indoor piece, the stipend doubled a little bit.
Stipend did double because it was, like I said, it was split between Ian and I think.
Yeah.
So then,
So 24 grand in San Jose.
yeah, for
Grinding it
sure.
out, right? What kind of led you to want to pursue all of this volleyball collegiately? Like why coach there? Why do both? Why double dip?
I just want to say before we get to that, I lived in a house with like 15 people. The landlord had built walls dividing every bedroom in half so that he could rent the house out to twice as many people. But I'm thankful for that because I paid disgustingly low rent for San Jose. That's how I made it work.
Illegally low rent in an illegal
Illegal.
home.
Sometimes you gotta break the law just to
Hey, you're talking.
survive.
I had no roof. I had no roof in Gardena. We had tarps. Like, mate,
Takeaway number one, takeaway number one from beach coaching, high percentage you might have to be homeless at some point in order to do this.
I'm an indoor too. When I was doing my interview with Texas Tech, I had a hole in my roof and it was snowing on me as I was on the Zoom with the Texas Tech coaching staff.
Oh, you had a roof.
that wasn't true. That wasn't truly broke though. You had
You had
Wi-Fi.
a roof, so don't even come crying to us about.
You, you had Wi-Fi, dog. Don't even try. Don't even try, Michael. It gets
You
worse.
had
It
a
gets way
skylight,
worse.
so you're saying you had a skylight.
It's a bougie spot, Michael. Bougie. Um,
What led me, well, once I started, well, this is like the sappy part of it because when I was playing a bunch, playing volleyball, and then I was in one of those like old man pickup volleyball groups, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, I got a club. If anyone wants to get into coaching, whatever," and I was like, "I'd like to get into it." And I coached with him. I coached a 15s team, and that team was like low key about to get emotional because that team was like so awesome. They're the most awesome girls. I worked with this guy, Corey, who was the most awesome coach. He let me do a ton of stuff, right? When I didn't really know anything what I was doing. Man, we just bonded so well. It was such good energy. We had a ton of fun traveling to all the qualifiers and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I was like super hooked on it. It was just, I loved being around it. I loved being around young people, athletes, like just, oh man, it's like so much optimism and energy and like, I just love it. And so once I got that bug, the like coaching volleyball bug, it just became really important to me that I really wanted to coach at a high level. So like even still to this day, I mean, I want to coach in the Olympics. Like I want to coach. I've always prioritized pursuing the highest level thing as possible over having a roof, over moving to a different state,
Money,
over money, over
silly
whatever,
things, stability,
over
insurance,
worldly possessions. Okay.
insurance. Tell me
I've
what's worldly
sought
about
I've
insurance.
sought out the pursuit of mastery. Okay. So but no, yeah, so that's what drove me to kind of be where I am. Is like I just like being with high level. I like if I'm gonna do a thing, like I just want to be able to do it at like a really high level. I mean, whatever it is, I don't it's like, well, I don't do karaoke because if I'm gonna do karaoke, I like have to be really good at it. I can't be like, oh, this guy's like okay. This guy's like not bad, but he's a little pitchy. Like if I'm gonna do it, I gotta really do it. So that's how I was with coaching. It's like, okay, I like this, so I really want to do it at a super high level.
That begs the question, and much like coaching, much like karaoke, what makes a good karaoke singer, right? Is it the actual quality of the singing, or is it the performance aspect? In coaching, I think a lot of it for us, and I guess I'd be curious to hear your thoughts as somebody that pursues excellence. What is the definition of excellent coaching? Is it doing the most, like coach of the year? Who should be the coach of the year in every conference and in the national tournament? The guy that or the guy or gal that wins the most, or the person that does the most with the least, or what's that level for you?
Oh, boom, boom, boom. Good question. Um, it's funny because we've been talking about a lot of this stuff in my master's program, like core values, but like also how do you define success and like, we were talking a couple weeks ago in one of my classes, like, we're talking about John Wooden, right? And like his tenets and stuff like that. And then me and this one other guy were like, well, John Wooden's great, but would we be studying him so much if he hadn't won so much?
Mhm.
It's like chicken or the egg, right? It's like, is it that good coaches is like to what degree are results part of what makes somebody good or elite at something, Because a lot of times as coaches, we get on, process over outcome. I've been on that a lot. Process over outcome, stick to the process, like commit to a perfect process, not a perfect outcome, that type of stuff. But I'm gonna be honest, I'd be lying if I said that some level of success or results is completely irrelevant. I think that's a mindset that you can take when you're in the pursuit of something great. I think it's a mindset you can take where you say, we don't care about the results. Like we care about how we're going about doing things. But I think in terms of like how we're defining stuff, I mean, I don't know if this is like a cynical take, but I think the world judges people based on results and performance, and it's how we evaluate people and make judgments about people and right or wrong. I think that's how it works as human beings. We use our like senses to perceive success, so we can't see people's intentions. So I think that part of good coaching is finding a way to achieve some type of positive result. I think there's a ton of development that comes along the way. I think there's a ton of like lessons, sport lessons and life lessons that come along the way in pursuit of that. But I think the pursuit of that thing in and of itself is a pursuit that elevates you as a person. And so what makes a good coach, I think, is somebody that can kind of strike the right balance between, hey, like what is a Pat? There's a Pat Summit quote. Winning isn't everything, trying to win is. And I really actually resonate with that quote because it's like it's the pursuit of the thing that's really valuable. And so I think getting a coach that understands that that pursuit, it's actually ironic because the one of the clubs that I helped start, and one of the first clubs I worked at was called Arte in Dallas, and that's kind of what Arte means in I think it's Greek, like pursuit of excellence, and so yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess any answer can be subject to perception. I guess the easiest way to ask it would be who should be the coach of the year this past year in collegiate beach volleyball, Alex?
oh, I think you're asking the wrong guy because I sort of like notoriously like don't follow a lot of programs outside of our own program.
Hmm.
So like I really don't pay that much attention.
Hmm.
If you want, there's a lot of other people that are really good at that. I really don't like, and that's not some type of like humble brag, like, oh, I just stay locked in on what we do. Only focus on what we do. It's really not a humble brag. It's like I can't even tell you. I mean, I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I do think that one of the first things that comes to mind is Stein, just from how quickly, Texas has become good. I mean, there's something to be said for people like Stein and Kristen that when they've gone places, like they very quickly have like the level of the program perceptibly so has seemed like it's increased really quickly. I actually think uh because I mean you really don't know how a coach is if you haven't coached with them. So I can't even speak to their coaching. So I don't mean this any one way or the other about them, but I do think there's like some type of placebo effect with certain coaches. Like I think there's a lot of placebo involved in coaching in general. Like there's a lot like that's to me that's like a lot of what culture is. It's like kind of a placebo because there's like a ton of different ways you could slice a team culture, but if your team buys into it, it's going to benefit the team. So it's like if you're old school disciplined, we do things right, we whatever, tuck our shirts in and show up 20 minutes early. If your team's with that, it's going to elevate their performance, whether or not that thing is inherently valuable or conducive to winning anyway.
Hmm.
So there's something like with certain coaches where because people believe that they're really good coaches, they probably practice with more confidence, compete with more confidence, right? When you play for a coach that has had success somewhere else and they come to you, they're like, oh, well, what they're doing must be inherently valuable. So there's like a different level of buy-in that gets garnered with your athletes compared to like people that come from, maybe people like us that don't necessarily come from super like, we didn't like play in the Olympics, right? We didn't like change schools from like a national championship school and like so we don't necessarily get that and it's just interesting so all that to say I don't for one follow a lot of what other people do and two I don't know if you can judge it from the outside in the first place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Well,
Yeah.
when you're coming up with your concepts of like what you want to do with the team and all that, like where are you coming up with those? Are you just kind of brainstorming things and just getting creative of I think this could work. Let's try this. Or is there something that you're watching and bringing in?
Just Instagram reels, my whole coaching philosophy. Whatever I see on Instagram
Your
reels.
own your own Instagram reels? Yeah, the if
TikTok, basically, You've seen
yeah,
those
you should
Rick
coach me for.
Pitino setting TikToks where he's like using the two fingers and he's just like, have you seen the parodies of it? God, they're so funny. Where do I come up with stuff? I don't know. I do feel like I don't want to say it's an advantage because that sounds self-serving, but I do feel like advantaged in some ways to not have come from volleyball and
Hmm.
come from beach volleyball, because I kind of just view it as like I view it all as problem solving. Like I am kind of a big, semi-big like ecological dynamics guy. So like I do view a lot of this stuff as just okay, what is the task we're trying to achieve? And what are the constraints and what are the sort of variables that are influencing our ability to do this task? And like how can I create environments that are conducive to people learning how to solve this problem? In that regard, I feel like I could probably at a certain average level coach many different sports because I feel like I kind of feel like I have this like this approach of just approaching it all as just problem solving. So I'm not regurgitating stuff that like coaches told me
Hmm.
because I never really got coached like that. I mean, I got coached by people that I would ask advice for, like girls on the team at UT Dallas. They'd be like, "What do you think of when you said?" Or some of the international students on the men's club team that like were from China and Japan that were like hit against the wall a lot. So, um, obviously I consume a lot of information and podcasts and watch videos and see this stuff. But at the end of the day, like I'm watching things happen and making judgments about whether I think that's repeatable or efficient or if that's the most effective solution to the problem or what the goal is. I mean, just approaching it kind of like scientist kind of like it's a laboratory.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I'm not really big on like high rep like scripting mechanics
Yeah.
type stuff because like I think I just and here's the other thing I'll say. Not, I'm talking a lot, but the other thing I'll say is like this sounds like such a like oh look at me, good for me. I'm like one of the purists, but like I feel like I grew up learning sports like in backyards and in cul-de-sacs. And like I do feel there's a ton of value to learning sports that way because you just spend your whole life like experimenting. Now I got coached a lot in like baseball, right? But even with baseball, like you go to the backyard and you play pickle or you play wiffle ball or you play whatever, and you just learn a lot about movement and like cause and effect and like if I do this, what do they do? Like,
Yeah.
I you just learn about that stuff. And so to me, I'm like a believer in that's how human beings learn skills is through self-organization. And so I feel like the job of a coach is to provide an environment that's conducive to self-organization, that's conducive to our inherent abilities we have as human beings. I don't feel like a coach needs to script how to do stuff for players.
That begs the question for me. I think there's been a long-standing, not debate, not disagreement, but just kind of like there's been two fields in, especially in beach volleyball. There's been that Brazilian field, and there's been that American field. And it's tough because I do think so many Americans at least say they buy into ecological dynamics, right? So they buy into self-organization, and there's games that have been set up to let the game teach the game and things along those lines. But inherently, the Brazilian style, for those that don't know, Brazilian style tends to be a high repetition based, high volume style of training volleyball. It's anything that you see where, like, if there's cones on the ground, you see an athlete moving back and forth, passing a ball really low, like that's a traditional Brazilian drill, or multiple touch drills where the okay, a ball's gonna come in from here, you're gonna pass that ball, and then you're gonna come over here and you're gonna pass another ball, and then you'll set that ball, and then you'll take that ball and you'll dive for a ball, and then you get up and you'll get one more, and then the rep will be done, right? And it's like 8 balls at once, and it's a lot of contacts. And on one hand, we look at it as like, what are we training? Is that really a system? There's no hitter to read. There's no serve to read necessarily. But it is so high paced that you're not really allowing the body to, you're not really allowing the athlete to be like, okay, I want to get my platform here because that's how a platform should be. Like it is in its own way self-organization. Sure, is it self-organization in a different manner from like pass, set, jump, and swing over a net? For sure. Is it different than a live serve? Yes, but it is self-organization in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because for like a really long time, I was really frustrated with that style of coaching because I just didn't believe in it. I was like, this doesn't
Mm,
make any sense to me. Like you like the high defensive rep stuff or like the high offensive rep just transition like just off a coach toss over and over again. I was like, I'm a really big believer in specificity. Like you get better at the things that you do. Like, you know, if I power clean a bunch all the time, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to jump higher. Like it means I'm going to get better at power cleaning.
yeah.
So I am kind of a really big believer in specificity and like contextual relevance to the training environment. But and I was pretty firm on that. And actually until a coach that worked with me, Jorge Rodriguez, who's actually the head coach at Texas Wesleyan, who's I don't remember where he's from actually. I think he's Puerto Rican. I don't know. He's gonna be mad if I'm wrong, but um, he's a really smart guy. I think he's a really good coach, and he's like that. He believes in that. That style, and he actually really kind of convinced me a little bit not to like come over to that side of the aisle, but to what you're saying, he goes the thing that high rep stuff allows you to do is it allows you to focus on a closed loop skill and allows you to like create these variations for yourself as an athlete. Like if I'm getting 20 attacks, that's just like off a coach toss even, maybe that's not like realistic to getting better at timing, but like I'm gonna iterate a good athlete. Now I actually have a separate argument about why we can't do that in the US. But
Ooh.
a, a good athlete is going to iterate movements and choices and solutions each rep, and they're going to like naturally self-organize, like you said. So, so he kind of like was telling me like, here's why I think that works, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that, and so I do see a place for some of that stuff, and I do think some of it's, I think some of it's like no, but I do see a place for like high rep closed loop drills.
Mhm.
But I think that you have to have equal, if not more. Like, I know a lot of coaches are really big on simplicity, like simplicity. I'm really big on complexity because I think the game is complex. Like,
Totally.
right? So, but I do think that I do think that it's both because I think as someone that like I've been getting into golf a little bit recently, which I never wanted to become a golf guy, but like
Here you are.
it's like important to hit the range, but also hit the course. You
Hmm.
know, like I really feel different parts of my brain working on different things. Like the range is usually bad because I'm doing so much iteration.
Hmm.
But then in the course, it's like I'm solving problems here. So it's like, you know what I mean? The feedback mechanisms are different. And so, anyways, I think there's a place for both, though I am the meta aspect of all this is that if our entire system in the US, for example, or any country becomes too based on coaches giving feedback after in higher up situations, then you're not actually contributing to players' self-organization. You're actually making them better listeners, not better problem solvers. That's where I don't like it because a lot of players when they get to us at the college level, they just have never really been forced to like confront their own movements and mechanics and their own thoughts before. So when you do high rep stuff, like they're not iterating, they're not solving problems for themselves. Like they're just doing it until you tell them to do something different. So that's where it's kind of like a necessity versus fundamentally best system
Can you do
conversation.
a closed loop system that includes a score and a success rate so that there is like some version of a problem being solved there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like I think little things like yeah, I'm not a huge like game teaches the game all the time guy, but I am like, oh, if you can like go off of a set instead of a toss, that's better. If you can go off of a down ball from a player across the net instead of a coach bowling, that's better. I just think it's better.
Just think it's better.
I'm kind of interested to hear because like I obviously didn't play a high level of baseball at all. I did not like baseball growing up. I ended up getting out of it at seventh grade. Like, how would you guys train in baseball? Because you guys both have very successful baseball careers, and then like, how does that kind of like what one thing that my coach at Penn State, Mark Pavlik, he would do is he would go sit down with a football coach and they would talk about football and men's volleyball and where the similarities are. And he would always draw these weird conclusions of like the offensive line is like our blocking line, and it's kind of cool and like looking at it different aspects. But like, how would you train in baseball, and then what kind of ties could you put from baseball into beach volleyball for the game itself?
Well, baseball is a very fundamentally different sport because like it's hard to explain. It's like they're not closed loop skills,
Hmm.
but they're also not skills that are like always cooperative with another person. So like hitting, for example, is like it's not a closed loop skill, but it's like I don't know. To answer your question, like my upbringing with baseball was a lot of like repetition. I mean, it was a
Hmm.
lot of like ground balls. Well, now granted, if we're talking like sciencey, like taking a ground ball off of a coach hitting a fungo is actually not that different than taking a ground ball off a live at bat.
It's inherently random. Like it
So
is
like
still there's a round ball, a round bat,
that's
there's
where I
variance.
was, yeah, I was talking about this with someone the other day. Like that's where in that case reps are contextually relevant. And so you're not cheating yourself out of game reps because it's kind of the same. Like I was talking with my buddy, we just played WACTH, and he was like, I was telling him how like, yeah, I think reps should be kind of like game context-ish. And he's like, well, what about like passing? I was like, that's why I don't like coach hitting off a box or like coach tossing defensive reps. He's like, what about passing? I was like, well, passing's one where like there's not a whole lot of difference between a coach serving you a bunch of reps and a player serving you in a game. So in that case, the high rep version is the contextually relevant version.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, hitting a set, like if you do that off of coach tossing a bunch with you're already in your point of preparation or whatever, like that is not the same thing as hitting off of a set in a game. So
Sure.
anyway, to answer your baseball question, like a lot of the baseball reps that you do are like pretty similar to the game reps. When
Hmm.
you're hitting batting practice, like a coach isn't trying to strike you out, but like a person's throwing you a ball, and good coaches will, not just throw you the same pitch every time. Like they'll hey, we're going, fastball or curveball, like you sit on one or the other. Like they give you situations
Hmm.
to kind of chunk the game into different areas, right? But also a lot of, I mean, baseball's also a lot of, in some ways, was old school. So like I have a ton of jargon in my head of stuff that coaches told me about mechanics, where my elbow should be. Keep a plate on. Some people coaches told me keep a plate on my elbow. Some coaches told me keep your elbow tight to your body. Some coaches told me inverted C shape for a ground ball. Or let it come in. Go get it out front. Like, I mean, a lot of the mechanics have been scripted to me, and then ultimately, like, I don't know. I think good athletes have to keep their brains on and figure out the solutions for themselves.
Yeah. The one example that I would have, Alex, would be like hitting off a tee, right, is a super common baseball activity that loses a lot of context. There's a lot, like even soft toss, which underhand, it's not everybody's ideal activity. If it's coming from in front, it still is at least a timing mechanism. There's still the arc of the ball is really different. That's where you kind of lose a lot of issues. But like
So
batting practice, like you were saying, like overhand throw, relative distance, pitch is going to change spots. The other big difference I think that a lot of people always assume baseball and volleyball are the same is that overhead motion, where there are definitely some similarities, but I think the major difference that people forget is volleyball takes place in the air and baseball takes place in the ground, and that changes how the muscles work in a chain system from
yeah,
that.
when I actually think back about baseball, and I've thought this before. I think all my years of baseball training could have been done better. It's not to shade my coaches, but like to
Yeah,
the T point, if I could have replaced all my hitting and front toss, underhand toss reps with semi-live like at bats where like the pitchers were constrained,
Hmm.
I think I would have been a way better hitter.
sure.
If it
Yeah,
wasn't, oh, like get the, feel like what it feels like to hit middle middle or inside out, whatever off a tee. It's like, dude, give me a pitcher who's like only throwing fastballs and trying to beat me inside. And I know that, but I'm still hitting live pitches. Like that to me would be a way better way for me to get better as a hitter. Provided the
sure.
gap between my ability to hit and their ability to throw those pitches is not so big that I can't get any good reps. Like I think all my training was old school and I think it could have been way better.
Sure. There's another level of randomness that we could hit. And I think that's always true with the sport of volleyball too. Like and then there's of course the battle piece. So, I'll bring it back. One of my favorite quotes, and it's not really a quote unless I quote myself, which I don't think really works out that way, but I always say a bad plan with good buy-in will always beat a good plan with bad
I,
buy-in.
yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
Like at the moment if you get my team to buy into passing with their top of their wrist, like they'll still be good enough passers as long as they're bought into it, rather than a team that like is taught perfect passing platform but doesn't believe in it. And
Yep.
so it kind of comes back to the same thing with like when we're executing drills or we're trying to set up coaching practices. We might have the science that says, hey, randomness is better for you. Constraint led approaches are better for you. But if they don't believe that, if they believe that you need to teach them how to hit a cut shot, like there's that weird balancing act where you have to be like, okay, I gotta give in to the garbage, to the junk food reps. As I forget who it was. There's some trainer that does like military stuff, but she calls it the junk food reps. Like it's not good for you. It doesn't help you, but it tastes good. And
That's
like,
exactly what I mean by placebo in coaching. It's like if players think it's going to work, then like you got to go with it because you can't understate the role of confidence in athletic performance. Like it
Yeah.
also goes to, like sometimes in the box when you're coaching in a match and you're on a side switch, it's like let's run a four block here. Let's run a four block here, double up in the angle. Because in your head as a coach, you know, okay, there's like a 66% chance this is going to work anyway.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and then when it works, they're like, you know what I mean? That feedback loop starts going, and then and then you get that buy-in. And then it's like, okay, and then you can kind of,
Yeah.
you
When in reality, the ball just went to the middle third of the court every time
know,
anyway. So it's like anything where somebody's standing in the vicinity of the center will probably
yeah,
get you a point. Like, it's
yeah.
it's silly things like that. Yeah, no, I'm in 100% agreement. I've had that conversation with Benny at LMU from time to time of like everything's got to be a question at LMU because that's the belief system that they have, and I do like it. Like it's not that I don't believe in it, but I know sometimes there are gals that like if you just tell them, hey, let's try to run an angle block here, and you're gonna pull for the cut shot, like you're gonna get that ball. You know what I mean? That other gal on the other side of the net, she's not looking. She has no idea what's happening at the other side of the net. Her partner's gonna say cut. She's gonna hit a cut. That ball's rolling right to you. Don't screw it
Well,
up.
yeah, and the other piece of that, I think, is that what makes sports hard, particularly like sports with opponents where there's like intervariable pieces where you're like your movements are dependent on other people's choices. What makes those sports difficult is decision making, right? Like what makes defense difficult is reading, deciding, coupling, perception action coupling, and then taking in information, making a decision, and then making an action as a result of that. That's the hard part, not the actual movement itself. So part of, I think, good tactical coaching is finding ways, I call it funneling, finding ways to like funnel information to where like if they're having to make a decision at all, it's stay or go. It's left or stay. It's whatever. It's like because when you can unclog that delay between the perceiving and the action,
Yeah.
then you just get people to move better. So if you say to an athlete like, "Hey, like just go up there and hit a cut shot right now." Even if they key on the cut shot, they're probably going to hit a better cut shot than they normally would because they're not in midair trying to see and read and decide what to hit and then having their action become worse as a result of that. So it's like all like mind games.
It's all Jedi Master, Jedi mind trick. These are not the droids you're looking for. That's not the
Yeah.
cut shot you're trying to dig, right? That's not the defender you're trying to see. Just hit this ball really hard and hope for the best.
Yeah.
And there's enough randomness in our game where like it'll probably work. Like I mean, that's the terrible part, especially offensively. Like people are siding out in our game at 75%.
Yeah.
That's an
There's enough randomness where you can just say, "Oh, hey, we were giving that one up. That's on me."
That's a classic line.
They hit the one we weren't they hit the one we were giving up. Hey, good for them.
she hasn't hit that all day. Why would I worry about it now?
First time hitting that, good for her.
Yeah, yeah. She's hit six of them, but that's the first time she hit it all day.
No,
Yeah. Sometimes you guys ever have that thing where you like go back and watch a match and you're like, was I right about that she hadn't hit that all game? Because
oh
I've been
yeah.
telling her, right? I'm like, do you trust you know what I mean? Do you trust
Because
your,
we're just as flawed as they are.
yeah,
Like
yeah, for sure.
we're just as flawed as they are. Yes, 100%. And I will say I feel like I'm right probably a good like 80% of the time. But there's a good 20% of the time where I'm like, why would it that's terrible feedback by me. Like that did not help our team in any way, shape, or form. Good thing they didn't listen.
Video got corrupted. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure it was what I said it was.
No. Uh, Kind of just to wrap us up here, we always ask one question at the end here of what do you want to see next from NCAA beach volleyball? And you've been in the game for a while, so I'm sure you got a little bit of an opinion on this one. Looking forward to this.
Burn the boats, Luna. Burn the boats. Set
What
it
do I want?
aflame.
What do I want to see next? Uh, Interesting question for these current times. I want to see. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I think to be quite honest with you and to be quite candid, beach coaches as a general cohort are very behind the curve of educating themselves about the mechanics of athletic departments, the professionalism of coaching, of contracts, of how athletic directors think, of how businesses operate, of how negotiation needs to happen, of what power structures and leverage within organizations look like, and the fact that beach coaches really don't have any. I think that like we either need to figure that out really quickly as an entire group, particularly the coaches that are at the quote unquote top of the food chain with a lot of resources, because if they, not to say that they're not, but if they're not in on sort of this like collective of coaches, then they'll be equally as affected by some of this stuff, by conferences shifting and AQs slipping, disappearing and programs disappearing, programs being cut. I mean, I just think like it's naive to it's naive to proceed forward as if like everything's going to be the same and like we're just going to have our seat at the table. We never had a seat at the table in the first place. And yeah, I mean, I'm not like don't necessarily feel like I'm the guy to say it because I'm just some regular guy that's lived below the poverty line for 10 years of coaching, but at the same time it's like I mean, again, not coming from volleyball, it's like you just look at it and you look at it from the outside and you're like, man, like we need to kind of band together. Everyone always talks about, oh, the growing the sport. It's like I'm actually not even sure that the sport needs to grow. I think it needs to like I think it needs to be preserved at a competent and quality level in the first place, you know? I mean, the reality is when you zoom out, like, I mean, every sport wants their sport to grow. Lacrosse, pickleball, women's flag football, like everybody's trying to get there. Bowling, like everyone's trying to get there. So it's like, how can we figure out how to like leverage each other's knowledge and information and create like good, sustainable environments for the sport? I mean, and it just unfortunately seems like it's people have struggled to do that at every level, even the professional level. And I don't have the solution, but I do think that having these conversations more, having these conversations more frequently, and particularly at convention, um, instead of talking about lineup rules, to be honest with you, like I just I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I think what's a bigger deal is like, will beach volleyball like continue to have a good place in Division 1 athletics? Like I just think that's a bigger conversation than the gray area of objectively evaluating your own lineup, you know?
Sure, sure. I
That's
think
just
it's a fair point, right? It's a fair point to talk about, and it's it's probably important to also recognize like that great Moneyball quote: "If we want to play like the Yankees in here, we will lose to the Yankees out there. If you want to sit here and play like football, like you're gonna get you're gonna get smoked, right? There is a certain piece where it's like, what is the context of what we're doing? If you're not bringing in or doing anything for a place, it is going to be very hard for them to invest in what you're doing.
yeah, I mean 100%. Like that's not even that's a great quote because it's not even true like logistically speaking, it's also true culturally speaking. Like, I mean, my personal opinion is that in the professionalization of beach, like it's lost a little bit of its um appeal because it's trying to be right big dog sport that's like professional and colors within the lines, and I'm like, I mean,
Luna
how
doesn't like teams. That's what I'm hearing. Luna doesn't like the league.
oh, so I'm talking way even way earlier than that. It's like this is a lifestyle sport, like, and I think that it should be leaned into. I think that's what's appealing about it. That was what was appealing about it to me, is that you could have personality and it was colorful and it could have a really unique lane. And I think it's been watered down, and in being watered down, I think it's lost not only its its personality a little bit, but I think it's also lost its leverage in the sport and marketplace, if you will.
Sure.
Uh, Granted, like what do I know? Like I really don't know anything about it, but that's just my opinion, and I just think that, like you said, that's a great quote. If you're trying to play like the Yankees in here, then you're gonna get beat out there. And I love the sport, and I think that as someone that grew up on baseball, but ultimately I'm like firmly a beach volleyball guy now. Like it's such a unique thing, and it provides such a unique opportunity, particularly to athletes, for autonomy and self-organization and relationships and communication and a cool environment. It has a lot of unique things to it that I never got playing baseball, for example. Um, but yeah, I hope that we can find a way to make it thrive. I know I'm certainly interested in having those conversations and yeah.
Absolutely.
Passionate about keeping my job. Thank you.
But
Yeah.
thank you so much for jumping on with us, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.